Hey, Sean, do you know what? I think that our listener want real protection against cyber risk. And I know that High Trust is the leader in cybersecurity assurance. But what makes them the go to choice?
Well, according to our friends at HITRUST, because their framework covers 100% of the known tactics, techniques, and procedures, in 2024, organizations with a HITRUST certification had just a 0.59% incident rate, meaning 99.41 stayed breach free.
That's solid. But what about staying sharp over time?
HITRUST regular certification process isn't just a checkbox, it actually drives improvement. Repeat customers see up to 54% fewer corrective actions needed year over year. And now, with their new AI security assessment and certification, you can actually tackle AI risk with confidence as well.
Then check out the iTrust framework. Go to hightrustalliance.net to learn more.
Marco,
Sean,
vroom vroom.
vroom, vroom. You're going to
Yes,
drive to
I
London?
think I
We
think
always have this conversation. Are you going to drive to London?
I am going to drive to London.
And I know the answer. You are.
I think actually I probably could this
Yeah.
year
The
drive to London.
question is from where, right?
From where
Where are
exactly?
you
From where?
hailing to London
I'll be
from?
going to London from Barcelona. I'll be at OWASP first, and then Info Security Europe following. So I could drive. I still will fly. I have that flight booked already. So
All right. All right. So chats on the clouds. No
chats on the
chats on the
cloud.
road.
You're flying from you're flying straight
Yeah.
from the U.S. So
I'm
there you go.
from Los Angeles, and then we'll hang
Yeah.
out there.
And we'll hang out in London at the Excel in London. Cool spot, and we'll see a lot of our friends from InfoSecurity Europe and meet some new speakers and panelists, including our guest today, Steve Furnell. Steve, how are you?
Fine, thank you. I'm not going to take such an exotic route to London for InfoSec. I shall just come down on the train from Nottingham and maybe a
You're
bit of
gonna
Nottingham's Light Railway or something to get to Excel. That's
you're gonna walk.
exotic as it gets for me.
Some people might find Nottingham exotic. Who knows?
Oh, Nottingham's very nice. Yeah, I encourage
Yeah,
everybody once they finish at InfoSec to take a shortish trip up the train lines, come visit Nottingham, Robin Hood, all that.
Ah, I
Mark.
mean,
If I'm not mistaken, that's where Marshall is. Is Marshall in Nottingham?
I
The amp
don't
company.
know.
I think it is
That's a
actually
good question. I
because
don't
we're,
know.
we're actually thinking about going there to explain
I
it.
want to go see Robin Hood. That's for sure.
And Robin Hood. I think Robin Hood hangs out behind the Marshall amp factory.
The
Could be.
statue of it near the castle, at least, you'll find there's some pubs nearby as
Right.
well. They're quite nice.
Oh,
Right.
there you go. There's always a pub.
Yeah. You know what? You mentioned a pretty large company. I want to say it's a large company. It's an international company, and
They make a
instead
lot of
here,
noise.
I think we are gonna. Oh, they do make a lot of noise, but
That's right.
what we're gonna talk about today, I believe, is actually those companies that are not as big as them, and of course, being at InfoSecurity London, Europe, we're gonna talk about small and medium businesses and how they do deal with cybersecurity. I believe that's exactly what you're going to be talking about there.
So that's certainly the focus of our panel, yes. So we're specifically talking about some work that we're doing as part of a research project, trying to now form what we're calling cybersecurity communities of support for small and medium enterprises. So trying to provide another channel for organizations that might find it difficult to engage with cybersecurity to have a means of getting involved in let's say a more socialized version of cybersecurity in a peer context. So that's the underlying aim of the project we're doing, and we've done a lot of lead up research looking at the nature of the challenges that face, well, actually SMEs of different sizes. So the term small and medium sized enterprise, of course, covers a multitude of actually quite different businesses and sizes involved.
And before we get into all the goodness, Steve, perhaps a few words from you about your role at the university, and which I presume was where some of this research is taking place, and some of the other things you're involved with in cybersecurity specifically.
Yep. So absolutely. So my day job is Professor of Cybersecurity at the University of Nottingham. So we've got a cybersecurity research group there in the School of Computer Science, but also with some interdisciplinary links to colleagues in other schools and faculties. We've got a fairly large PhD community looking at a variety of different aspects of cybersecurity. So verging from the, let's say, the business, human and organizational stuff through to much more technical aspects of it. The project that we're talking about, InfoSecurity, is one of several that we've got going on. But the wider range of activities, of course, it spans both research and the more general education and public engagement around cybersecurity.
Steve, I've been talking about the connection between cybersecurity and society for as long as I've been talking on ITSP Magazine, actually, which is 11 years now. And I don't know. I feel like there is still a very big gap. I think technology has been helping. I think maybe legislators have been helping as well. But I'd like to hear from you. Where are we standing at this moment in time?
Yeah, so I think fundamentally, I think you're right. There is still a fairly significant gap in some areas in terms of the things that we really need, let's say, societally as individuals and as organizations to actually keep up with it. As you mentioned, the technology itself keeps advancing. So there's more things we can usefully do with it. There's more benefits that are offered to us. But at the same time, the fundamental connectivity, the extent to which we're online, our data's potentially exposed, that we're, let's say, individually and in businesses, organizations, depending on the technology, all of that advances as well. So if we're not dealing with the cybersecurity aspect, then we're more exposed and to a greater degree across a wider landscape of things. And if we look at, let's say, the fundamental, what could we term it, cybersecurity literacy of individuals, I don't think that dial has moved anywhere near as much as people's appetite to adopt technologies and services and their consequent use of it, their ability, their understanding of what the risks are and how to secure it, unless it's done automatically for them. I think that the position is not greatly advanced, certainly not to the same extent as the technology itself.
So it's interesting, Steve. I'm curious how that shakes out in the program you have at the university, bringing the next generation of professionals into the field. What does that look like? Who are you seeing interested in this? What are you teaching them, and how does that relate to what we need in the space?
So one of the things that we do, it's one of the other project activities that we've done recently at the university, is to try and promote cybersecurity and actually related careers to younger people, so actually mainly to the pre-university student community. So we've done a number of events funded by the Department for Science, Innovation and Technology, which we've termed Step into Cyber. And so that's been trying to raise awareness of the fact that cybersecurity is a thing that we need as a society, and also the career opportunities that young people could look to pursue within it. And actually not just from the perspective of those interested in computer science and related topics, but the wider breadth of cybersecurity and the roots in there, the need for the different interdisciplinary skill sets to actually do the job properly.
Yeah, and I know, Marco, you probably want to jump in, but I don't know, maybe you can kind of shape the picture for us in UK, maybe broader Europe, if you have a view of that, for the SMEs, SMBs here, they referenced here in the States. Mm-hmm. A lot of at least my perspective is, when you get to the smaller organizations, they don't have the staff. They often don't have a wide range of budgets to do things, and therefore they look for partners in service providers. Is that also the case in the region you see and or have connections with? And then how does that also shape the training that we're providing?
Yeah, so I think it's certainly true that many smaller organisations, particularly in our parlance, in the small and micro organisation range. So we're talking that organisations up to 50 employees for the small and up to 10 for a micro organisation in sort of European parlance. Yeah, very often, no, they don't have a number of things potentially. They don't have the budgets, they don't have the in-house expertise, they may not have the understanding that it's an issue that they need to answer in the first place. And very often, even if they do, they don't have the time to direct towards it because of the other pressures of actually running the business and keeping that afloat, let's say. Depending on the size of organization and their level of more general awareness, they may, and their ability to do so financially, they may have partnered with an external provider to help with both the cybersecurity and their wider IT provision, but it's not a uniform picture. So some will be doing this, some won't be, and those that are, there's a varying perhaps level of understanding about what they ought to be looking for in terms of the cybersecurity support. So, on one level, it's maybe tick a box that the service provider is doing cybersecurity, whatever that looks like. But if the SME itself had a better understanding of what good looks like, then they could make a more informed decision and choice about whether they're getting what they actually need in terms of that protection and provision. So yeah, it really is quite a varied picture, and that's one of the challenges that those different constraints play out in different ways for different organisations, and the results that we see from, for example, in the UK, the annual cybersecurity breaches survey very much suggests that whilst there aren't as many incidents being reported as in the larger organisations, the smaller micros, for example, are certainly not immune to it. So at least half of them, for example, on average, having some sort of incident in the prior 12 months. Not to say about the level of incident, and not to say that they're going out of business because of it, but they're encountering what they're recognising as cybersecurity related problems.
So I want to touch on two things, and then I already told you I want to talk to you more when we are there, because I'm really fascinated by the psychology part of it, which I want to touch on. But first, I want to talk about the automation, right? So we know that automation and AI, yeah, I said it. It's something that, of course, the bad guys are using. But I'm also thinking that there is a lot of automation that small businesses can now use compared with years ago that not going to resolve the problem. It never resolved the problem, but it could level up a little bit. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, certainly the more that can be done in an automated manner without the user having to get involved, that's good, in the sense that it lifts some of the responsibility from them. It takes some of the complexity away, and it doesn't have to involve AI at all. I mean, for years we've had the ability for certain aspects, for example, the security updates to be installed automatically, for malware scans and things to be scheduled. So the things that in the early days used to rely on somebody actively making a decision about, am I going to do this thing, backups as well, all of this stuff can happen in an automated manner. But you've still got the point of vulnerability when there's a decision to be made, when there's the threat that's come looking for the person, rather than the perhaps some of the more routine maintenance activities and things that can be scheduled. So we still do need, and it goes back to that earlier point about the awareness and the understanding, the literacy of the individual. We still need that bit to be there, because otherwise you've got the exposure to, I suppose, classic problems now, like phishing messages, whether they're by email or social engineering via some other channel. The minute it reaches the person, it's down to them as to whether they're threat resistant or not. And I suppose thinking about where AI can play a role in a more negative sense, that's been a utility for the attackers in framing some of these things in a more convincing manner for the potential victims.
So I'm going to touch on a couple of things here, Steve. And I think they're related, and perhaps you can confirm that in your response. But the supply chain has been something that keeps coming up, and I noticed that it's noted in the abstract for your panel discussion as well. And in the description, you also talk about community. So where SMEs can come together and share information, share knowledge, collaborate perhaps even with some of their other partners. I think we start to raise the bar for everybody when we do that. And so perhaps this is where the connection comes in for the project, the other project you're working on. What is it? The Psy. I should have had that handy. Where is it?
Psychos.
Psychos. There. I wanted to say Psychops, and I was like, that's not it. Psychos, like as in cosplay. So is that a connection?
We can all dress up, yeah.
That's right. Exactly. Well, you got to come to the party appropriately. So I don't know. Is that a connection
No,
that project?
absolutely. I mean, so the fundamental principle that we're trying to work towards within the project is to form these. I say we're calling them communities of support. So that's where the Psychos name is coming from. It's cybersecurity communities of support, and the idea is to bring together the SMEs and the providers or advisors on cybersecurity within a community context. I think most naturally based on location, so that there is a potential to have an in-person aspect to it, but potentially by sector, potentially by size of SME, recognizing that, okay, the micros might have a different perspective to the mediums, for example, and also potentially linking back to what you said, in the context of organizations all within the same supply chain. So there could be a useful opportunity for a larger organization to form such a community around its supply chain partners to help socialize cybersecurity issues there, to offer a, let's say, a safe space for questions to be raised, for concerns to be aired, for recommendations to be made and sought. So a context for basically for a conversation to happen around this, to make it a more accessible subject for those that feel they don't know enough about it, or for those that perhaps don't even recognize the issue, and then to realize that perhaps it's something that they could learn more about, and then have a peer community from which they can get access to information. Not in a sense of selling, and not in a sense of having to give away all of their sensitive details of their organization, but in a context where they can share what they're comfortable with and get some sense of being able to talk about it with others. And certainly in the research that we've done in the earlier parts of the project, talking to SMEs themselves and talking to providers who deal with them, that notion of sort of not feeling they've got somebody they can talk about it with, or at least without it costing them money in some way, is something that seems to be missing. It's certainly not an absence of guidance being out there. There's if you do a web search through any chosen search engine for SME cybersecurity guidance, advice, there are plenty of sources. What we found looking at them within the research that we've done is they're not necessarily consistent in what they cover. So different topics air to different levels in different places, and they're not necessarily consistent, and they're not consistent in the level to which they take the advice. So, some will range from sort of just general tips, some will be more sort of action points, but as an SME, you've still got to have some level of expertise and capability to put those points into action. And so having a community in which you can ask, well, okay, this bit of advice says I need to do this. How might I do it? What did you do? What were the problems when you did this? That sort of discussion has a place to occur.
Right. And so I love the community. I think it's easier when you resolve social issue also, when you break it down in community, and then the community build the bigger, the city or the bigger community, like concentric and growing. But before they get to the community aspect and getting together, they need to be aware of the issue. And and Sean, of course, we had a nice conversation at RSA conference San Francisco with Jason Nurse, which is a professor at the University of Kent.
And one of our collaborators in the project. So Jason's another member of the team. So
there you go.
Jason very well. And given that you mentioned him, I should also mention Maria Barda from Queen Mary University, who's the other partner in the project.
Yeah. And we were exactly talking about that. And he did a presentation there, the psychological aspect of things and how people are really not feeling it. I mean, I'm saying it very LA here. I'm not feeling it. But what I mean is they're very scared. They're, over alert, kind of like, crying wolf, but not really understanding and kind of getting detached from it. So is the solution there maybe a little bit more involvement from a requirement, from legal perspective, from government stepping in, or there is something, in your opinion, that, as Justin said, that we can do as a community?
So, and hopefully Jason's sort of thoughts towards the community were informed by the fact that we're doing this within the Psychos project. But I think fundamentally, that's the approach I think that needs to occur before we get to the level of requiring, legislating, etc., and fundamentally obliging organisations to do it. Because if you think about the position we're in now, certainly at least in the UK, if a regulation was to come in that said every SME needs to do X, Y, and Z, well, they're not in a position to do so. And there isn't the level of support and accessibility of support out there for them to be able to be guided. I mean, we've got fundamentally still a skill shortage in cybersecurity, so that pushes the price of it up, et cetera, et cetera. So it would be I suppose, both unrealistic and unfair thing to put that requirement in place at this stage. What we need is to be able to raise the bar and to raise the level of capability and options to engage to a degree where it would then be realistic to say, okay, you've got these resources available to you. There is a path that you can take. And I'm not suggesting that the SciCost communities would be the sole answer to this, but the whole landscape needs to mature that bit further before we'd be ready for that, I think.
Makes sense.
And I go back to your the one example of many that you shared, but I'll call it the tip of the supply chain arrow, kind of leading the charge for we've done a lot of investment here. We kind of know what's going on. We're going to help our supply chain understand and be better prepared under our guidance, because we've done a lot of this work. So I really like that idea and many of the other things you mentioned. Let's as we wrap here, Steve, your session is called Enabling Cybersecurity Communities of Support for SMEs. Very much on target for what we just talked about, of course. And it's with, Stephen Bell, Satna Chada, and Amanda Finch, led by James Coker. That's on Wednesday the 4th from 11:45 to 12:20 local time there in London, of course. Who do you expect to be in? And that's on the keynote stage. Who do you expect? Probably most of the conference, but who do you expect to be there? Who are you speaking to, and what can they expect from your session when they leave?
So, what I'd like to think the audience would be composed of is cyber practitioners who would be potentially interested in engaging and supporting the communities from that side of things. There may well be sort of the general members of the general business community, the actual SME target community who need the support in cybersecurity. If they're there and can hear that message and want to engage, that would be great as well. What we're really interested in from the perspective of the project is to get some further engagement of both SMEs and the practitioners, the advisors, to form a series of pilot communities that will then run, analyze, monitor, and evaluate as the final aspect of the project itself. So basically from the autumn or fall period, we're looking for those pilot communities to operate, and that will be sort of into early 2026. And so I say from our perspective, the aim of the panel is an awareness raising thing around that, as well as to share the findings that we've had from the earlier stages of the work. And the folks that you mentioned, sort of the Home Office and the Cyber Resilience Centre for London and CISEC, which the other panelists represent, they're all some of the partner organisations that are there alongside us from the universities as part of the project.
Yep.
I love it.
And I think it summarized very well what the reason why we do conferences is, right? The community getting together and making steps towards a better future. And as the theme of the conference this year is building a safer cyber world, makes sense to me that we really literally focus on the small, medium business, because those are the majority. Those are the job that really give to the living to the small communities and families and the owners and people that work with it. So
SMEs make the world tick, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know what else make the world tick. It's InfoSecurity Europe, which happened the 3rd to the 5th of June 2025. We will be there. Steve, I'm really looking forward to really talk to you. We'll grab Jason too, and we'll have a conversation together. And
I'm gonna early invite you back for when those pilot communities come together.
Right.
Love to have you on for another chat to hear how that's going and what they're looking like.
We'd love to talk to you about it.
Perfect.
Very good.
Perfect.
We'll see you there. Sean, I may have to see you there too, unfortunately.
I know. Well, I think we arrived the same day. Different origins, but we arrived the same day.
I'll wait for you.
Yep. All right, you wait for me. We'll take the train into over to the Excel. Well, we're not staying there, the Excel, but anyway, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a good week as always. Appreciate the InfoSecurity PR team for helping us pull conversations together before, during, and after the event. And of course, if there are stories that need to be told, you can connect with us on LinkedIn and we'll help tell those stories. In the meantime, stay tuned to all of our conference coverage for InfoSecurity Europe on itspmagazine.com. Steve, thanks a million. Appreciate you. Everybody listening, watching, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Sean, do you know what? I think that our listener want real protection against cyber risk. And I know that HITRUST is the leader in cybersecurity assurance. But what makes them the go-to choice?
Well, according to our friends at HITRUST, because their framework covers 100% of the known tactics, techniques, and procedures, in 2024, organizations with a HITRUST certification had just a 0.59% incident rate, meaning 99.41 stayed breach-free.
That's solid. But what about staying sharp over time?
HITRUST regular certification process isn't just a checkbox, it actually drives improvement. Repeat customers see up to 54% fewer corrective actions needed year over year. And now with their new AI security assessment and certification, you can actually tackle AI risk with confidence as well.
Then check out the HITRUST framework. Go to hitrustalliance.net to learn more.